Have you ever walked away from a conversation and felt your emotions betraying you? A sense of wrongness you couldn't explain, a subtle shift, as if your mind was whispering to you, "There's something off here." Maybe you started questioning your thoughts. Maybe even your memory stopped feeling reliable. At times you doubted your own sanity. This feeling is one of the quietest signs of emotional manipulation. Manipulation doesn't operate loudly. It doesn't wave red flags. It works in silence. It slips in through guilt, confusion, charm, and control. Through a vague space where everything blends together. And one day you realize you can no longer tell where your thoughts end and the manipulation begins. This episode isn't only about identifying manipulators. It's about recognizing what changes inside you when someone distorts your reality. Because the most dangerous part isn't the person holding the strings. It's the psychological traps they make you activate in your own mind. Cognitive dissonance, self-doubt, the quiet fragmentation of your identity. In this video, you'll see how manipulation works, why it's so effective, and what parts of your inner world it targets. You'll learn how to recognize it early, avoid its psychological traps, and, most importantly, how to rebuild a sense of self that doesn't collapse easily. Protecting yourself isn't just about seeing others clearly. It's about seeing yourself clearly. It's about analyzing the situation, keeping a wider perspective, and staying mentally sharp even when someone tries to cloud your vision. Let's begin. Emotional manipulation happens when someone uses your emotions and your mind against you to gain control, power, or advantage, often without you realizing it. It's not overt abuse. It hides behind masks of affection, concern, or logic. It doesn't shout. It whispers. Manipulation plays on your empathy, your fears, your need to be understood, your desire to be accepted. It turns your emotional landscape into a weapon against yourself. A manipulator doesn't force you. Instead, they make you question yourself. They implant thoughts into your mind as if they were your own. And eventually, you believe you made the decision yourself. But deep down, something feels off. Here are the most common tactics. Gaslighting. It shakes your memory, perception, and judgment. That never happened. You're remembering wrong. You're exaggerating. You're too sensitive. These words aren't meant to change the truth, only to make you doubt it. Guilt tripping. They use your kindness, empathy, and sense of responsibility against you. Love bombing. Overwhelming affection lowers your defenses. Then they withdraw it. The absence becomes a hook. Silent treatment. Emotional withdrawal makes you anxious and compliant. Projection. They blame you for what they are doing, forcing you into a defensive position. The reason manipulation works so well is simple. It often comes disguised as, "I'm doing this for you." Most people notice it too late. Not because the manipulator is powerful, but because you care. You want peace. You want fairness. You want to understand. And manipulators aim precisely for that softness. They shift reality quietly. They redraw boundaries without warning. And in the end, you are the one who apologizes. If you're listening to this now, you already know something is wrong. Manipulators don't create weaknesses. They use the ones already present in human nature. Humans are wired to attach. In childhood, survival depended on acceptance. That programming doesn't disappear. We still seek approval, safety, love, belonging. When these needs are threatened, or when we fear losing them, we start giving more than we should. People who avoid conflict are especially vulnerable, because silence becomes a tool the manipulator uses. Then self-doubt begins. Cracks in your inner structure widen. Your trust in your own reality weakens. And the most powerful fuel of manipulation, hope. Maybe they'll change. Maybe this is just a phase. They're just overwhelmed lately. This isn't a flaw. It's human nature. But recognizing it is the only path to setting boundaries. Manipulation slowly reshapes a person's sense of self. At first, it's subtle. You hold back an opinion. You suppress a feeling. You doubt your intuition. You start thinking through their perspective. Gradually, your lines blur, your values, your boundaries, your thoughts, your voice. A manufactured self emerges. A version of you crafted to fit someone else's expectations. The longer you stay in this dynamic, the more normal that borrowed identity feels. But deep inside, something whispers, "Who was I?" This isn't weakness. It's a predictable effect of long-term manipulation. Your real self isn't gone, only buried. Returning to it doesn't start by fixing the relationship. It starts by hearing your own voice again. When manipulation takes hold, the mind splits. He's hurting me, but he cares about me. I should leave. What if I'm overreacting? This conflict is cognitive dissonance, and over time, people begin to self-manipulate. They minimize their feelings. They silence their intuition. They reject their own reality. Even when the manipulator does nothing, the mind continues the cycle. It's exhausting. It drains your confidence. It clouds your judgment. But confusion isn't failure. It's the first signal that your mind wants you to wake up. Even when the manipulator is silent, the mind keeps running. The most common traps: cognitive dissonance. Trying to reconcile two conflicting truths, overjustification, constantly excusing their behavior. Self-doubt spiral, questioning your memory, feelings, intuition. Hope trap, clinging to potential while ignoring the pattern. Manufactured confusion, believing the chaos is your fault. Each one is designed to keep the cycle alive. Every manipulation cycle breaks with a small moment of clarity. Sometimes a feeling, sometimes a physical signal, sometimes a voice in the silence. Constant tension, fatigue, emotional numbness. All are your mind saying, "See what's happening." This moment shifts everything. You stop reacting and start observing. And as you see more, you gain strength. Once you recognize manipulation, the next step is placing yourself back at the center of your life. This isn't building walls. It's regaining self-respect. Return to your values. Know your red lines. Set emotional boundaries. You don't have to give from where you feel empty. Question emotional logic. I feel this way. You must be guilty. Maybe a trap. Watch for patterns. Are you always the one apologizing? Is your mind always foggy after conversations? Does silence always break only when you reach out? These are patterns, not coincidences. Trust your body. It senses danger before your mind admits it. Take your voice back. A small no is the beginning of your return. After manipulation, identity feels like this. You look at your own home, but most of the furniture isn't yours. The colors, the layout, the choices, they were shaped by someone else. You start asking, did I really want this? Even simple decisions feel heavy because you've silenced your voice for too long. But your authentic self isn't lost, only shadowed. And the moment you recognize that, the rebuilding begins. Professional manipulators don't shout. Most don't even whisper. They speak with your voice, convincing you with your own thoughts. They replace your reality with theirs. But once you see the cycle, the game ends. Your mind is no longer the enemy. It becomes the compass. When you hear yourself again, you're not broken. You're rebuilding. The strength was always yours. Now it's time to claim it back.